Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing? Hope you guys are doing all right. It's another month, another season, another spotlight tier list video. Wish you guys are doing well. Happy holidays. It's December, guys. Christmas music's rolling around, and just wanted to wish you all well in this month. Take care of yourselves. All that good stuff before we get into it. We do have a lot to talk about one way or another. No fancy intro. I didn't want to do that because I'm being lazy. I'm really not being lazy in the video itself, but in the intro, I am being a little bit lazy. But yeah, let's get into it. So, ba-da-bum, ba-dum-bum. So we do have our December cast tier list video with a lot of cool stuff. The standards have not really changed. S through D, A, B, all being options. C is where things start to get a little bit wonky, where you have to think about whether you want the spotlight or if you really want the card. So we always talk about the season pass, always as in this is a new addition to our format, but we do have Galacta. So she is a pretty interesting card. Each turn, the first card you play at another location reveals at +3 power. So it's not her location that can get the +3 power. It has to be some other location. It's a 4 energy card. So you play her, and then theoretically, baseline is you play another card in another location on 5, play another card in another location on 6. So baseline, it's a 4/12. There are ways to mitigate or to improve that, but that's a pretty powerful baseline to have here, just a 4/12. As long as you play to her, you read the card and you play to what she's saying, then it has a really, really powerful baseline. Plus, you can take advantage of the card is buffing before it reveals, kind of like Forge. So any of those crazy Forge synergies will work here. The one that really stands out to me is Brood. So Brood is a 2 power card with 3 energy. You play him and then he copies himself twice. So with this, Brood becomes 15 power, which is absolutely bonkers. But there aren't really too many, Iron Man stuff, right? Is you get some 3 power. I don't think there's too many obvious, oh my god, this makes everything broken except for Brood and Silver Surfer decks. But essentially, she is a very strong baseline card, kind of like Gwenpool. And if you add her into a deck, she should provide value. You can do some cool stuff if you play Wasp. You could play her and Wasp at the same time, get some power out of Wasp. But that seems like a lot of effort to add a Wasp in your deck if it doesn't have any previous synergy. So overall, my take on this card is it is a strong card, but overall, in terms of fanciness or deck building, I don't really feel that pull personally for this card, where it's yes, if I'm playing a Brood deck or I like playing Silver Surfers, that type of stuff, then she seems like not auto include, but she seems fairly strong in those shells. But if you are just playing a traditional deck that isn't doing any of those fancy stuff, it just has a good baseline that you might play her anyways, but not something that's oh, this builds my deck. Or I can't play a deck because I don't have Galacta. I don't really feel like I'm getting that vibes from her. I really like those cards that make their own decks, where it's if I don't have Surtur, I can't play a Scar deck, that kind of thing. I'm not really getting that vibe here. I do think it's a strong card, so wouldn't be surprised if you're oh, I just want this card because it's strong and it's gonna carry me to infinite. I definitely believe that's possible here with Galacta, but for me personally, it's not as I have to pick or I have to purchase comparative to some of the previous seasons where I'm yeah, I have to take this card, that kind of thing. Not really getting that vibes here, but feel free to get it if you want it for sure. Something I'm adding now as well from feedback, I read some of it, is that sometimes you don't know what the new cards do. And I think that's super fair because I just go into the spotlight tier list and here's the tiers. Get this if you like it. You don't even know what half the cards do. So now we're going to just have a slide talking about those particular cards here, and then we'll talk about the spotlight. So first off, we have Luna Slow. This is on reveal, add an ice cube to each side of your location. And I just remembered that I didn't put the ice cube in. I did put it for Penny, but not for Lunas though. The Ice Cube is a -1 that gets destroyed if your location is full. I wonder if I should edit. I didn't want to edit this video. It's a -1 that gets destroyed if your location is full, but if it doesn't, but every turn it will give you +1 energy, and it summons an ice cube to your location and your opponent's location. So it's kind of like a weird take on Clog. So right now, like Clog is annoying, right? If Clog works, Clog's a very annoying function because you prevent your opponents from doing anything, and it's just like I don't want to deal with this particular mechanic, right? So it looks like they're trying not to have a ton of like new Clog effects. They've been nerfing Black Widow, right? Stuff like that. They've been nerfing Clog, so it feels like this is their new take for Clog. See if it can make it work. I do think, in terms of the function, it's a little bit weird because you will always give your opponent an energy, because the way the ice cube works is it will add an energy and then destroy itself. So let's say you are able to fill, like you play like Hood into Viper into Luna Snow or something like that, right? And they fill their lane, right? Even though it gets destroyed immediately, they still get that +1 energy. The nice thing is you get to keep your energy for the rest of the game if you want it, but they still get that 1 turn of energy use, which sometimes is relevant. So it is a little bit weird. To me it feels like the type of card that you really have to know exactly what you're doing to make it work, or maybe it just like fits in Clog decks. But I haven't really seen any Clog decks where I'm like, oh my god, Luna Snow crazy. But it kind of reminds me of maybe Magic, in terms of like it gives you energy and you can like do something weird, but it can benefit your opponent if they can take full advantage of the extra turn or the extra energy in some cases. So definitely an interesting card. I wouldn't. So now that we know the card, right? When we look at the spotlights, right? I don't have her super premium tier herself. She's next to Lady Deathstrike and X-23. Another thing I did want to talk about is just the age of cards at this stage of the game, right? So we've the game's been out for years plus now, and now we have some cards that have been in the Spotlight system for more than a year, right? And I do feel like when it comes to Spotlights, they did mention that they did have a recent Spotlight, which I have a whole, that's a whole another discussion. I wasn't super happy with that Spotlight. Just felt very lackluster to me. But they did also say they're going to have another big Spotlight drop in the next year, or in the upcoming year. So there is some potential there. But regardless, that's not out yet. And I don't like doing like, oh, here is what they're going to promise, and let's just give them the break. Now, I'm like, what we have right now is there are some cards in the system that are Series 5 that have been a Spotlight system for more than a year. And I feel like I want to notice that or put that in now. So I have this notification like years old. It just means like this card was released more than a year ago. It's still in the Spotlight system, and some of them are still Series 5, right? I feel like, okay, if it's been a year, you've dropped them down to Series 4, I could like, okay, yeah, they're doing something. But X-23's been out for a year, been Series 5 the whole time. It's very playable. It's been in the meta the whole time. And it's just Series 5 because they know, oh, people still want it. Kind of like Darkhawk and stuff. It's just like, so I'm not promising I'm going to do this for future on, but like, at least this one, I just wanted to notice, like, hey, this card's been out for more than a year, and it's still Series 5. Question marks, like, when will these drop, right? Like, haven't you milked them enough? Anyways, but regardless, X-Ray 3 is a good card. This one is off. So, definitely worth picking up, but it is an old card, something to think about. And then Lady Deathstrike is also pretty playable, so they do kind of help the card. Luna Snow itself, I'm not super crazy about the card. I think it's hard to build. Another card I would like super recommend. This is the type of card like you want people to figure out the deck for first. Honestly, it's kind of a hard build around where I'm like, even I'm struggling, because usually I don't. I look at a card and I'm like, oh yeah, I know the deck for this. So I'm like, like a clog deck maybe, but there aren't a lot of clog decks that use energy super efficiently. They usually have like one payoff card at the end, and their hand is usually full of like random options, tech cards and whatnot. So it's like not like the best use of random energy. So that's the weird um, disconnect I have with this card in terms of like I'm playing clog, but I have this energy, and I also have to like put in effort to make them lose the ice cube, or they're gonna get free energy on top too. So looks like a lot of work. It probably needs this card to me seems like it needs another card that makes it easy for Luna Snow to get to work. Like a Viperous Essence, but maybe like you get 2 cards or something, or a location or whatever. Anyways, that's my thoughts on this particular spotlight. Moving on. So now we have Penny Parker. So this one is a pretty interesting card because this card does a lot of things. It's a 2/3, decent stat line. Adds SPDR to your hand, and then when this card merges, you'll gain plus energy next turn. So it's another energy card, kind of like Lunar Snow, but this one works through merges. And then the SPDR is a 3/3. On reveal, merge one of your cards here. You can move that card next turn. So nice thing about this is a 2 that gives you a 3, which is pretty good for like Wiccan stuff. So it has that like appeal already. You get a 2 that gives you a 3 that solves like a lot of your Wiccan issues. Another thing is this SP can merge with anything, so it doesn't have to be Penny. It can be anything. So that's kind of nice because it means that you actually have move synergies on top of Penny just being a card that you can move herself. You can now move other things. So move. It's been in the spotlight ever since like Madam Web season. Madam Web season, that wasn't the season, but that's how I think of that season. Came out where you had a lot of move stuff. I think to me the most broken interaction, if I were going to play this card myself, is I play Human Torch on 1, Penny on 2. I buff the Human Torch and I get to move it, right? So Human Torch 1/2 plus a 3/3, so it becomes 5 power. You move it, it becomes 10 power. So you get a pretty nice potential 10 power turn 3 or 4 that now you can start moving even more, right? So if you move it even more, you can do some stuff. So there seems to be like a nice Human Torch combo in my head that you can do with Penny. So that would be like what I would be looking at for this card. On top of the Wicked synergies and just generically, it gives you energy, so you can play this to ramp into 5. Now 5 is a weird ramp spot. People usually like ramping into 4 or 6. So there isn't super clear like Electro into like Sandman kind of stuff. Like no one's really doing that kind of thing anymore. So it's interesting like how people use Penny, but I do think she has a lot of like potential directions to go towards. So in terms of Penny, I think I have to be, in terms of move cards, I have to be sold on the move package because Madam Web I was super sold to be broken, wasn't broken. So I'm now like, okay, move, you really have to showcase you're going to be crazy before I'm like, hey, go do it. I do think Madam Web's a good card though. It just like statistically, move is hard to play. People don't play move to gain points well, according to the data. So I'm just like, okay, the data shows me you got to prove move to me. But I do think the card has potential. Human Torch looks good. And just ramp in general, energy is also generally powerful. So I'm not down on the card. I do think it's lower tier than some of the cards we're going to talk about, but I can see it. It's next to Gladiator, next to Sasquatch. Honestly, Gladiator is pretty good, but isn't as premium as it used to be. I remember, and another thing, a lot of these cards have been out, like have come out already. Like X23 we see so often in the spotlights. You know, there are cards like that Zemo, Baron Zemo. I was gonna say Bruno. Who's Bruno? Baron Zemo. They haven't been in the spotlights at all. And X-23 we've seen so many times. Lady Deathstrike we've seen often too, right? So it's like, okay, Same thing with Gladiator. We see Gladiator often. Sasquatch is a new card, so that one like that's like a fine series spotlight card because it's new. It's not years old. Some people don't have it, you know, and now you've seen the card in play. So now you know if you want it or not, right? So like it seems perfect for me. I will say Sasquatch not very popular right now, so not like a high tier card to pick. I wouldn't like go pick up this spotlight just for Sasquatch. I think you're doing something wrong personally. If you, but then again, there's probably like a Sasquatch believer. It's like I love Sasquatch, and I do think Sasquatch is good with Mysterio. That you know that synergy is great, right? And you know you have Mysterio, you have maybe um, Mockingbird if you want it. So there is some combos there. I'm just like that's the only thing for Sasquatch that really makes me be like, yeah, that's a card. You know, other than that, I don't really see a ton of the huge synergies. Maybe it needs like a little bit more base power or something for me. But right now, like 610, not 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 super impressed. But Gladiator is decent, but not as high priority as it was last time around. So still a little bit lower. And then Penny is okay, but um, like this isn't an impressive spotlight to me either. So that's kind of my take on this spotlight as well. Next up, we have Doctor Doom, or well, technically not Doctor Doom, Doom 2099. So this one's pretty cool. After each turn, you add a Doom.2099 to your random location if you play exactly one card. And I realized I didn't put the Doom 2099 in here too. There's so many extra pieces to this season. Every card has an extra piece. Luna Snow. Penny and Doom. They all have extra pieces that I didn't put in that I should have. But Doom 2099, I remember what is the base power of the bots? I actually need to look that up right now. So the bots are okay, they're 2 power base. Okay. So the bots are also 2 power base, and they give your other Doom bots and Doom here +1 power. So it doesn't buff itself, but it'll buff your Doom 2099. And the coolest thing about this is also buffs Doom, Doctor Doom. And I don't think there's been a card that buffs another card in such a direct way, unless right, like high evolutionary doesn't count. You know what I mean? Like that's not what I mean. Like here you're playing Doctor Doom, you can 2099. You can also play Doctor Doom, and it makes sense, and it fits in the theme, and it seems pretty good. So this just seems like a pretty powerful. What's the word I want to say? Like lazy man's comp? Not like not lazy man, but like you just play this and it's so flexible. You just have to play one card. Like that is what you're doing anyways. Most decks are already just playing a 5 and a 6, right? They're not balanced. They're not like, oh my god, because I can't play Doom 2099 on bounce. You weren't playing Doom 2099 bounce. You already had board issues, right? The issue with this is like you're filling a lot of your locations. That's not like a big issue, and that's not an issue in some decks. Like if you're playing Blue Marvel or something like that, that's a benefit. Hey, you're filling your locations. So it just seems like very easy to get a lot of value with this card. You play this, you get it that turn that you played on 4. Play a 5, you get another one. You play a 6, you get another one, right? So you get tons of value. You can play Doctor Doom on 6. You fill all of your locations, hopefully, and you get your Doom bots. They buff all of them. Your Doctor Doom is like 24 power. It's 8, right? You'll get 8 over 3. 24 power. It just seems very strong to me, right? So definitely have high value on this card. This is the one I would go for if you had to pick. So when we look at the spotlights, I have it at A tier, but not because it's next to good cards. I gotta tell you, it's next to trash. No offense to Dakin and Meek. Okay, and another thing, Dakin in the data mines used to be Hidmonkey, right? But then in the reveal video, it was Dakin, right? So it's like, okay, it's Dakin, right? And I feel like Dakin is a weird choice. Now the reason why I think Dakin is a weird choice, like if you have Dakin or don't have Hidmonkey, like that's whatever. But Dakin's in the next season pass as a reward, you know. So you're gonna get Dakin if you're getting the season pass next season. So that just seems weird to me that you're going to give you're like baiting people into getting Dakin because you know, oh, Doom 2099 is very valuable and is obviously the best card of the season here in my opinion. So you're giving some not very good cards. I feel like this behavior I'm not okay with. You know, you gotta like they keep doing it. Like maybe at the beginning I was like, oh yeah, this is intentional because you know it obviously the best cards with the worst cards in the set. Like it because people will still get it. You know, like makes sense. But you keep doing it, and I'm just like now I'm annoyed. Now I'm annoyed, dude. Like, I don't want Dakin, or I'm getting Dakin anyways. I don't want Meek. You know, if you have to be playing discard to really like Meek's not a bad card to be fair. But you have to be playing discard, right? And if you're playing discard, you're not playing Doom 2099, right? So another thing, where is Galactus in all this season? I am off the rails. I haven't eaten today, so I don't know why I'm like going crazy. But where is Galactus in the whole season as well, right? You think in a Galacta season with Galacta in there, right, you would have Galactus because there's some synergy here. Here you can really do some cool Galacta into yeah symbiote Spider-Man into Galactus into activate. It's so toxic to be fair. Don't do this in my gifts. But yeah, like you can do some Galactus stuff if you want to. So don't know why there's no Galactus the whole season. I feel like maybe not in this spotlight because that's maybe like too free. But I feel like where's Galactus in all this? I feel like Galactus should be in one of the seasons this past. So definitely weird to me. But in terms of the spotlight itself, Doom 2099 is carrying this whole spotlight, and I have him by himself B tier, like worth getting by himself. So I obviously a big fan of the design of this card, you know, that kind of thing. The other pieces don't really influence the decision too much. If you're missing both of them, then it makes this a really good spotlight. If you're missing both Dakin and Meek, then yeah, you're getting a lot of value. If you're missing one, I don't think it makes too much of a decision whether to get this or not. This is basically like, do you want 2099? Obviously, you can see until it comes out, see how it plays, see if you like that play style. And if you do, then yeah. If you don't, then move on, right? Next up, we have Bruce Banner. So there's a 2-1. Not great stats, right? 2-1 is sad. But when you end the turn with unspent energy, 25% chance to Hulk out. Now, what is Hulk out is what people are telling me. And I feel like you should know what that means. You become a Hulk, most likely, right? So you have a 25% chance to become a Hulk. So this ends up being like a 2-12. But you have to end your turn with unspent energy, and it's not guaranteed, right? So theoretically, the idea is you end with 1 energy, right? Every like over 4 times over the game, and then you know hopefully it hits. Doesn't necessarily mean it'll hit, but hopefully. The thing is, like, you could just hit it turn 1 or well, not turn 1, but like turn 3 or so, and you're just like, okay, like I got a 312, like, woo, let's go. Yeah, that's a little bit lucky, but it's definitely possible. So definitely feels like you want to be playing this with unspent energy synergies. The biggest two are Sunspot and She-Hulk, so there's definitely some Hulk synergy up in there. So if you could. This feels pretty easy to squeeze in, and then if it can work out, it feels good. It is inconsistent, and that's probably the biggest issue. And there's going to be games where you played it optimally, right? You had unspent energy optimally, and you still don't get the Hulk, and you just have a 2-1, and you're just sitting there, and you're like, you know, last turn I need Hulk. How can I win? You know, and then you don't get it, and then you're crying, and then you wasted 8 cubes. Like that's gonna happen. But there are going to be games, probably more games, where Hulk is just like carrying you. Though Hulk will get Shang-Chi'd as well, so you have to be careful. So there's definitely some weaknesses to this card. It does have that potential payoff, and it does feel good. And a 212 is pretty powerful if you're playing synergies and stuff like that. But in terms of like, is this my type of card? No, I'm not really a big fan of like RNG, heavily determining whether I win cubes or not. However, you know, obviously you can get the Hulk early and then but last turn Hulk seems scary to me. But Sexa Ravone, Sexa High Evolutionary, these are old cards. They've been here for more than a year. And once again, High Evolutionary, we see a lot. You know, if you are new, this is good for you. Like, High Evolutionary is still. It's definitely worse than it used to be. I don't see as many High Evolutionary players, so it's not as popular. So you can there's way more options that feel strong in the game compared to High Evolutionary. Back when it came out, it was like, whoo, the fanciest thing. But now Arisham's in and stuff like that, where it's like, High Evolution is cool, but not like super cool as it used to be. So yeah, Ravona is also pretty solid. Probably the more used of the two cards here, even though it's Series 4, you know, or Series 5, but they both work. They're decent cards. So if you're missing either of them, you can definitely pick them up and play some decks with them. They're not bad cards to go. And then Bruce is like, okay. So if you're missing all three, I think it's a pretty good spotlight. If you're missing two, it's decent. If you only want Bruce, you have to really be like a Sunspot player or a She-Hulk player that's like, okay, this fits in my energy, unused energy deck, and I'll just add that in as a new core piece. And then if that is true, then absolutely. Like if you're already playing She-Hulk decks before, don't let me stop you. Like this fits in perfectly, so feel free. But if you're not and you're like, oh, this like the difference between having an insane unused energy deck, I don't know. I don't think so. But we haven't seen it, you know, played, so but that's just my personal opinion here. And then finally, we have Rocket and Groot. So the duo is back together. You can move this once to 3/3 energy after your opponent plays a card here. You steal 1 power from it. So steal 1 power is pretty powerful. It essentially is like -2 because they get -1, you get +1, right? So it's a 2 power switch. So even if you you hit 1 card, then it's a 3/5. If you hit 2, it's a 3/7. You hit 3, it's a 3/9. Right, and the thing is, you can move this, right? So this is giving me like Jeff vibes, not Jeff, but what's the other one that moves once? That card. Oh my god, dude, I'm blanking, guys. That's horrible. Move once. Nocturne vibes, yeah. Giving me Nocturne vibes, guys. Okay. Will I leave this in? Will I not? I probably will, actually, you know. Anyways. But it's giving me Nocturne vibes in terms of that you can move it once and it has some type of extra effect on top of being able to move once. And this one I feel is just really powerful because what you can do, as long as you have priority, it's like you're playing the Galaxy or the Guardians of the Galaxy game, right? You have priority, you hit them, you steal their power, and then final turn you can move again. And okay, what makes this card to me really strong is there's no once per turn limit to the stealing the power, right? So a lot of times in the final turns, like you're playing against Bounce or something, right? They flood a location, right? You'll flood a location, pump, and you'll like that's how you're winning that location. You're doing something crazy. Now with Rocket and Groot, if you know they have a game plan like that, you can move it there and just like steal 8 power essentially from them. And that's so much power to do. Obviously, you're probably not gonna get that dream scenario. Maybe you're stealing two cards or 3 cards, right? Like that's still pretty good to have. And it also kind of is a pseudo blocker. Because let's say you have a Rocket or Groot somewhere, you really do not want to be playing into that Rocket and Groot location. You know what I mean? So it kind of blocks a location that do I want to play 2 cards in the Rocket and Groot and then they get +4 power and probably not, right? So it's blocking a lane and then final turn. It doesn't even have to be final turn. You can move this earlier, but whatever turn you want, you can move it again and then just like boom, take a ton of power there. So I just think this card is high value, and probably would have been like to me the strongest in the set. But Doctor Doom 2099 is in there, so like no. But I'm pretty high on this card. I think this card is pretty powerful. So when it comes to the spotlights, It's next to Celine and Blob. Blob once again. So these two cards are not years old. They're not like a year plus old, but they're so close. They're so close. I wanted to put it in there anyways, but they're not. So, like next month rolls around, they will be years old, but they're skating by my criteria. But Blob we see a lot. Celine I don't think we see too often, but isn't super popular in the meta right now, so probably fine that we don't see too much Celine anyway. So not a high powered spotlight as well, right? We have Rocket and Groot, which I'm high on, and that's why it's C tier the whole way through. But Celine, Blob, Blob's pretty good in Arsham and stuff, but you don't really see Blob in like non-Arsham decks all too much these days. So there isn't, like, it used to be broken, but there's less space and there's more options for sixes that are good. Like there's more big stupid guys now to play on six than ever before. So Blob used to be like the kingpin, but Blob was getting like 27 power, was something ridiculous, right? So now it's toned down a lot. You're not getting that much crazy high numbers anymore, so definitely doesn't feel as punishing, or to not have a Blob in your account. So yeah, but Rocker Groot's high tier. Celine, Blob, not as much value in my opinion. So overall, when it comes to this this spotlight overall, I would say like there aren't too many like old cards that jump out to me as like, oh, you want them, because a lot of them have already been released before. Like there's no Baron Zemo. Baron Zemo, I'd be like, oh, this is pretty good, because they never released this card for some reason. I don't know why, but they never released this card, so this is worth getting. But a lot of times we've seen pretty much almost all of these, maybe not, except for Sad Squad, we've seen all of these in the spotlight before. So there's a good chance you own a decent copy of these. Luna Snow's okay. Penny Parker's pretty good if you're a move fan, or you like Human Torch, you want to do some cool stuff, or you like Ramp, also works. Doom 2099 is my favorite of the set. Sad that they're next to like subpar cards, like Dakin and Meek, especially Dakin feels weird since it's in the season pass next season. But yeah, definitely the coolest one here. Bruce Banner, if you like She-Hulk decks, makes sense. And then Rocket and Groot also, I think, is pretty good. Just a little overshadowed by Doom 2099, but wouldn't be sad to see you pick this one up. So that's my thoughts on the season. Let me know the changes. Let me also know like the video itself. Am I too crazy? I'm gonna get murdered for missing Nocturne off the top of my head. But yeah, that's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Take care of yourselves. Have a nice rest of the season. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Dun, 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 dun. Where's the button that ends this? This is the button. Once you watch him, you won't go back. He'll teach you tomorrow's. I need this guy. I need to find this guy again, actually. I need 2 more jingles from him.